everyone, welcome to the show. I am Mia Voss. You're here watching Inspect.com. We're on the third part of our series of establishing your online presence for home inspectors. Look at these gentlemen I'm with here today. Nice to see everybody. This is Jeff Bond here. He is the founder of Inspect.com and the owner of Inspect.net. And then today we also have Ammon Johns, who's coming to us. It's very late where he is, but he's joining us and he's going to give us all the good info. Good to see you guys.
Nice to be here.
Thanks, Mia. Nice seeing you too. Hello, Ammon.
So real quickly, again, we're on the third episode. So the first one was basically going over, talking about marketing. Ammon gave us a ton of great information because there's a ton of confusion out there about marketing. And then the second one was analytics and data. That was super fun. And my dog even agrees how entertaining that is.
Caught it just right.
We did. So what are we talking about today, gentlemen?
Today is about defining who you are and your brand and working towards developing a online presence, including your website, talking about social reputation and reviews and getting that nailed down. Figuring out who you are and who you're talking to.
I agree. So hold on one second. For some reason, it's having a hard time going live on Facebook. So that's okay because we are going to be recording this. And what's going to be great is you're going to be able to look at all of these episodes that we've done. So it's going to be a full broadcast for you. So let's jump in, guys.
Sounds good.
All right. So establishing on your presence online, let me just say that real quick. That is one thing that I think a lot of home inspectors, and Jeff, you'll agree with this, a lot of home inspectors aren't actually paying attention to that because they're too busy being out in the field.
Yeah, they're calling. And the thing is that this is just a constant ongoing source of business for new business as well as established business, that it's just an alternate and a rich live method of the phone book 555. People need to be online.
Agree. All right, let's jump into it.
Yeah. Well, in terms of being a home inspector, I wanted to gain traction with my clients, and so I had to figure out first who I was. So spend a little time figuring out what I like and what I want to do and provide as a service. So I really figured out who I was, and then a bit about my brand, and figured how much budget I had and the markets I want to serve: buyers, sellers, realtors for the most part. And then we have our second discussion of reputation and reviews, and finally just putting all that together to channel your business presence into applying your energy to where you are best able to kind of take advantage of it.
Green, Ammon, you want to jump in on that?
The reason that you need to know this is that this is fundamental. This is your business. This is who you are, and you need to account for that all the way through the rest of your processes. You want to be communicating who you are, who you want to be dealing with, and who wants to deal with you, because otherwise, where are you putting your message? Who to? How are you getting it right? How are you measuring right, even with all those analytics, if you don't know who you're trying to be, who you're trying to speak to, and who you want to be to them? And one of the things that I was saying before is that when you define who you are, this isn't about, oh, I'm a home inspector and I do this inspection and that inspection. And look, there is nobody out there saying, oh, I'm a home inspector, but I'm not very good at it. You know, everyone is claiming to be a great home inspector. They're all doing many of the same things. So a lot of what really defines you is the things you don't do, or you don't do particularly well. If you specialize in something, that's the kind of thing that you need to put forward. But be aware of what makes you stand out. Don't spend too much time stressing the obvious that every other inspector is also going to be saying, because it misses the point for somebody who is shopping around and is more aware of other home inspectors right now than you are, because they've just looked at 50 different profiles. So really focus on what you don't do. When we talk about brand, one of my favorite examples is Northwest Hour, where what you choose not to do. You could do, there's money in it, but you choose not to. In the case of the airline, they don't do the major routes. They serve city to city. That makes them design their whole business around that one particular function. They function almost like a bus service. The regular, there's no big long check-ins. There's no third-party payments for leads. And everything is geared around doing what they do really, really well, and you knowing what they don't do. They don't do long distance international flights. That's not their business. That's not who they are. Know what you don't do.
Excellent.
Jeff, you talked about that before too, and we'll get into that too, of mobile homes. So that's one thing that you definitely are doing that other people aren't doing too. And then we're obviously going to cover, we're going to jump into reputation reviews and then channeling your business presence. So ready to dive into the rest of the slides?
Let's do that.
All right.
Yeah, this is just a little bit more expansion of just defining yourself, your brand, and budget and markets. But is Ammon really hit this well? Ammon, is that kind of what they sometimes refer to as USP, unique selling points? I sometimes hear that, or is that different?
Unique selling point, or sometimes unique sales proposition. These are the key things. This is what sets you apart. This is what somebody decides to buy or not buy. If they don't know you, if they haven't already got a history with you, then what they're buying isn't you, it's whatever they perceive as being unique about you. What sets you apart from that option? What are they choosing over somebody else's offering? That's your unique selling point or your unique sales proposition.
And I'm talking to the core values too, but if you have a USP, it better be aligned with who you are, or else you're trying to sell something that's really not you, and then it doesn't really sound genuine. I think it's important that you make sure that you understand who you are and that you understand your core values, and then that you're aligned with your USP, because if you're just not good at it, then it's going to be difficult, I think, to come across as being effective.
And I'll jump in there too. That's the other piece too, is when we're talking about home inspectors, the first word of that is home. So if you're not aligned with those core values, people don't want you in their house or their potential house, right?
Yeah.
They need the trust value on that. And that's part of strengths and weaknesses as well, which you touched on that already, Ammon.
Yeah, to give a quick couple of examples here that would apply. Somebody who can do very fast turnarounds. I don't need a lot of lead time. You need an inspection done tomorrow, I'm the guy you can call and I will get it done tomorrow. That's a unique selling point. But you need to make sure that all of your ducks are in a row to make that happen. What happens when you get busy? How are you going to keep on doing that thing? So that's where it comes into your core values and your strengths and weaknesses, is how you deliver that unique sales proposition every single time. It might be you limit your radius of operation so that you are always 1 hour away from anyone you actually serve.
Wow, that's a great point.
That is an excellent point.
Exclude that you could do are what define you more than the things you choose to do.
No, there's is a lot of people complain about, my inspector's late. That sounds like a very, and the thing is a lot of people, you're just selling time, and they have limited time. They come in for a 2-hour window, and if you're like 30 minutes late, that really carves into the relationship in the business sense. Yep. All right, Mia, how about that next slide?
You got it.
I think is that a lot of home inspectors, they, you talk about brand, but they really are their own brand, aren't they? Because they're just a brand of one. So I think for a lot of home inspectors, is you and your brand are actually the same thing. And unless I'm mistaken, Ammon.
No, I mean, obviously inspectors can grow the business. They bring a son on board. It's now Mr. X and son.
Right.
Home inspectors, they're both doing the same thing. So it's got to be a family brand now. But remember, it's not so much about who you want to be as who your customers want you to be as well. Now, it doesn't mean lie, but it does mean understand the customers you are best suited to serving. And just, be the right thing for that kind of customer. If you want to be dealing with the very high-end big jobs, that there's a little bit of snobbery sometimes involved there, that you need to be just that little bit classier perhaps, that you certainly need to be a bit more on point with your reports to make the client feel special. And if you're not good at making somebody feel special, you're just damn good at doing a good, honest day's work on time, every time, then maybe you don't want to go for the high end. Maybe you want to go for the people who don't need as much pampering, but need the service done right. So those are the things you consider when deciding what brand values you need to be pushing as well.
That's awesome, because that's completely separate from other people that like their whole thought about home inspections is find the lowest price possible cost. In the phone call starts with like, what do you charge for a home inspection,
Yeah.
versus what are your qualifications? And then obviously is to that client right there that wants to know about price, I better be focused right in on whether my price point is going to satisfy them. And sometimes I have to tell people is maybe you have the wrong inspector. I'm well priced, but is if price is your main concern, is I'm more focused on quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly if you've got a deal with a large property developer or a large realtor who deals with a lot of properties, then making them feel special and being able to deliver the report they need in the format they need it and to make them feel special suddenly becomes core to that business. They don't mind paying a little extra if it makes their job easier.
Agreed. And I think that's something that people aren't doing, especially right now. Everyone's so frightened about making money or doing the right thing. And so then to have somebody that's going to be honest with them, like you were both just saying, is really going to serve your brand well.
Yep. All right. Next slide.
Got it.
Yeah. Well, is you know who you are, but you still really don't know who you're serving, and you have to figure out who your customers are, and you need to then really consider developing some profiling personas, is what they call it. I'm going to ask you about that, but is you trying to figure out who you're talking to, and you try to develop ideas in general of who they are.
Yeah, I mean, not all customers are the same, and we all know that. We all know that we've got great customers, and we all know that we've got nightmare customers. And identifying the things that set them apart, what trends you can spot, helps you target the customers who are most valuable to you. So really nailing down through the analytics that you talked about last week, who your customers are, who the different customers are, paying attention to social media for which customers are looking in which places and how, which customers ask which questions. All of these things help you know whether somebody is likely to be one of your better, higher value clients or one of the more problematic ones. You need to be having profiles so that you can also determine the tactics that work best for each kind of customer as well.
I'm hearing you. What's funny sometimes too is I'm trying to just figure out who the most highly valued customers are, because for me, it's not always the money coming in. I tell people it's not about the money for me. It's more about like my feeling that I'm really doing something of value, making home safe and committing. So I think that kind of just talks to the idea that you need to really know who you are and your customers are and make sure those two things are aligned well.
Yeah. And understand that different customers, it's not just about who they are as a person, it's also about their situation. Somebody who's in a hurry is a lot less patient than somebody who's got all the time in the world. Somebody who is selling their own home at their own leisure is a very different proposition to somebody who is out of town, only going to be in for one day, needs everything to happen on that one day. And you need to take this into account and understand different customers have different needs, and different things that you say are going to sway them to either work with you or not.
And it's funny, but like sometimes it's I find myself picking and choosing who I choose to work with too.
Yeah.
I'll get a person that will come and just say, let me throw a bunch of money at it. Now I need you tomorrow, and then I let them know it's not about money. It's about service. He goes, well, how much more money do I need to make this happen? And I said, you're not registering. Is it's not a money thing. Is let me know that this is a safety issue or important. So it's funny how sometimes people will come throwing at money and just have that expectation that it solves everything, but it doesn't always, does it?
No.
It doesn't. And I think creating an air of exclusivity around your business is also important too. It's not that you're just going to work for everyone. And boy, does that make your life a lot easier.
Oh my, yeah.
That's how I want to make money.
Yeah.
It's not even just the huge thing of eliminating certain stresses. But as I was saying before, sometimes you have to gear your business a certain way. And something may be profitable, but the very fact that you say no to it is what makes it part of who you are. The fact that you only deal in a 50-mile radius and you will not do 51 miles no matter what, sometimes that's going to be a tough thing to stick to. But you've set the line somewhere, and once you have, don't cross it. That's your line.
Ammon's saying, hold your boundaries. I
And
love that.
and if that doesn't hold from a business perspective, then do you look to change, your definition, or do you look to kind of find better tactics and strategies to still stay in those boundaries, but just develop more market?
You're going to need to look at why your plan wasn't working. Was your original area too small, or was it simply the wrong area? Are you the wrong supplier for the customers in that particular area?
That's excellent.
Are the property values in this area a little bit too low for long, detailed inspections? Would smaller, cheaper inspections work out better? Or do you need to move to a different area, redefine that circle to include higher value homes?
Yeah, my heart goes out to people that live in very rural areas. They must have a huge radius they have to serve just because there's a certain level of business they have to do to support their family, but there's just not a lot of people around in which to kind of serve. So, yeah, understood.
But on the flip side to that, there's a lot less competition.
And you can really focus on quality, can't you?
Yeah.
It really is that balance of determining that the cost plus time plus dollars, what that comes out to if you're spending a lot of time on the road. And that's how you get your time when you get to listen to your podcast, then great. If it's something though you want to have this many per day, you do have to decide what your boundaries are going to be on that.
Okay.
In everything related to marketing, the customer is king. Always look at everything you're offering, not from whether you think it's reasonable, but from whether if you were a customer in this particular mindset and go through each of your personality profiles, each of your different needs for your services, is this reasonable from their perspective? Does this really sing to them? Because they're going to vote with their wallet. Your vote doesn't count.
I have a unique question about that, Ammon. Is basically it's usually a husband and a wife or a couple that buy a house, and they're not the same. And what she thinks is completely different than what he thinks, and it's a lot of times just maybe he's making the money but she's making the decisions, or vice versa, or just a combination. Is how do you you work to serve both?
This is something that my industry is very familiar with, because I work in the junction between the marketing guys and the techie guys. And sometimes before I've come in to speak with both, they've never had a conversation in the same room. And the fact that you can mediate between them and identify their different languages and help them communicate together to reach a conclusion can itself be golden. Helping the husband understand what the wife is looking for in a home can sometimes be a real blessing to him who's not quite sure.
Sure. And I focus on female buying power with my brand as well. Then you start adding in this information too. It's a little bit of therapy, but it works.
Yeah. How about that next slide, Mia?
You bet. All right.
All right. And then just some quick browsing through is I think every home inspector wants to have a website. If you want to have other channels, that's okay. But your website is your constant presence online that allows customers to come to you and find out about you. Basically, for me, it is me online. It represents me, and it actually is me. So along the top menu, you can see I've kind of broken down into a few areas: inspections, buyers and sellers, and realtors, who I'm talking to, and I'm talking to them differently. So if you hit the next slide, Mia. If people are looking for home inspections or mobile inspections or commercial inspections, they may tell me that, but they might not tell me whether they're a buyer or a seller, but they just want a home inspection. So these pages talk to them on that topic level, on the inspection level. And how about that next slide? Is a buyer wants to, it's the classic buyer seller. Is that whole market making is interesting to me, Emma, but like buyers want something, and that's completely different than sellers. Buyers, I tell them they want it as nice as possible, and sellers, they want it as cheap as possible. So that's a different point of view. So we have pages set up to talk to them independently. And then realtors are the same thing, is whether they're representing the buyer or the seller, their interests are completely different. And then you have commercial brokers that just deal with it. It's all money for them, and that's all it is. So these are just more pages that talk in detail to that persona. Is if you're a listing agent, I'm going to talk to you differently about home inspections than if you're an agent representing a buyer. And then just our order form that's online. This is from the cell phone. Mia, you took the screenshot. Thanks for doing that. But sometimes people don't have a lot of time. So just give them text them a link to the order form, and they go fill this out. They just put in their client's information, their contact information, their property address. Just check what you need. If you want to make a few notes, do so, and click send. And how about that next slide?
You got it.
Thanks a lot. Because this is really, for me, this is proof positive. This is a week's worth of business from last week. That this is all done while I'm away doing inspections, but that's 15 home inspections in a week coming
It's
online.
amazing numbers. You look at the top, yes, that's between July 21st, that's in July 28th. That's great.
It's been busy, but it's just to know I don't have to have a secretary office or anything. Is that just rolls in, and then I come back to the office, and these are inspections, and these people have all come to know that if they do that and fill out that form, they'll get an immediate response back. So I think it just helps validate that this is worth doing. That's a lot of business right there, and a lot of people would be very happy to be doing. A lot of people couldn't do 15 home inspections a week, but if you can, there it is.
Exactly. You have the ability to bring that much in. So here's some important information on reputation. Let's talk about that. You have some fun slides for us.
I mean, why don't I always get confused here because I'm pretty cut and dried, but this is super important. Emma, what's up with reputation and reviews, and how does that all work out?
We all like to have ideas of who we're going to deal with before we deal with them. And the way we do that is we form an idea of who they are. And part of that is based on what we can find out about their reputation. Some of that is what we expect of them based on the reputation of people we've known like them. We all know what that means. You know, we sometimes look at somebody and we get an idea of what they're going to be like. Where's that idea come from? The reputation of people they remind us of.
Interesting.
These are factors that you need to take into account because they're going to be directly affecting how likely you are to either close a deal or get a recommendation or anything else along those lines. You know, people like to deal with who they know, like, and trust. And all the things that we do are to build up those three things. You want to be seen so that people, you know, have an idea who you are. You want to be known to them so that they know they can relate to you, that you relate to them, that you're speaking the same language, and finally that they can trust you because they're not going to let you in their home if they don't.
Yeah.
Like I said in the beginning, you're talking about people's homes here, folks. So more than anything, I mean, it's like, you know, you can invite the vampire in. You can stand outside the door. You can ask him in. You want to have somebody you trust. So I agree.
Yeah. Next slide is.
I love this. Real quick, people remember and they gossip a lot. This is very true. And they have right? Do you have any good stories on that one, Alan?
A few, but none I can repeat.
Yes, all of us do. We do have a couple of fun slides here that'll give you example of the good and the bad, and especially right now with what's going on in the world. But talk real quickly about reviews, guys.
The thing is, with homes, it's such a big investment for most people that they don't want to get it wrong. So they will talk to friends who've already sold a property or bought a property. They will ask who they used. And if you did a good job with them, you're going to get a positive review and the job's half sold to you. If you did a bad job or just didn't impress, you're back on square one.
All the way back down to zero.
Yes, the do-overs aren't necessarily there. It's and we're seeing it right now, everyone, just with social media in general, with cancel culture, how quickly that can go awry.
Oh, yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
have everything going.
The reviews are evergreen too. Is the idea is that when someone writes that, is that it sits there forever for someone to see. So I've had people call up and say, "Well, I saw your review on Yelp," and I'm just going, "Well, that's like a 4-year-old review," and go like, "Hey, they use that to make part of their decision. So obviously, there's still power in something that's 4 years old. Versus if I told them something 4 years ago, they don't even remember it. So it's important to remember that these reviews, they stick and they stick forever."
They do, and there's also such things as screenshots. Sorry, Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's these reviews are the lifeblood. These are the ways people look for social proof that other people have used you, other people have trusted you, and other people haven't regretted it. And when people are buying a service they are not buying every week that they don't know very well, which definitely includes most people buying a home, yeah, they look for social proof a lot more than usual. The two big things that always are boosted when people aren't so sure of the product. When you're buying something you don't know well, we look for social proof and we look for brands or expert approval.
That's
Agreed.
good.
And you
That's
had
good
that.
knowledge right there.
And is that important line of that they don't regret it. that's huge. And then two other things, obviously, don't leave long replies to compliments and engage with customers and resolve. You guys, I know we're all on Google Maps quite a bit as well with Google My Business. And that's a huge piece I see too when they're not being, they're actually not being addressed or they're being argued with.
Don't go in an argument online.
If you're getting complainers, as we've got there, you don't have to resolve it right there and then in public, but encourage them to reach out. Be very, very open about how they can get in touch with you, or ask them to drop you a note of their number and you will call them. Now, that looks great. You've kept it private, but you've instantly responded, and at no cost to them, you're calling them.
That's an excellent
things people want to see. Not that you're perfect, that nobody's ever complained, because this is the real world. People complain about a lot of things all the time. They don't expect you to have had no complaints. What they want to see is that you've listened and you've been responsible.
Excellent.
So true.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I chose to channel my presence in 3 areas. I'm pretty systematic, so I really put a lot of time on my website. I made my website good, and then I use Google Ads for just getting the name top of mind out there. And then I am review based, as I really work hard for customer satisfaction, and I like to just think that like I work to do anything possible to make it happen for clients. So this is my Yelp listing, and I am fortunately ranked #1 in Hayward for this is where you want to be. You want to please customers so well that you just show up top of the list. How about that next slide, Mia? And then these are the kind of reviews you're looking for. I won't share this. These are embarrassing, but
I took some time on this one.
oh, he came back again and edited it. It's just, but like, wow, talk about testament is he said something great, and then he felt so good about it, he said some more. That really is, I think, indicative of the level of service that I gave Sal. And this is a real review. It's a real guy. And
it is, and let me point this out too. This is also when you see it, somebody who's taken the time to do reviews. He's done 290 reviews. He's uploaded photos. The bona fide of this gentleman, just himself, is really important to recognize too.
Oh, definitely is when he talks, people listen.
Yes.
So, and the thing is, when you do these reviews, you don't know who they are. So you don't know to kind of take that approach and like, this is a power guy, better treat him well, you need to treat everybody like this.
Yes.
You do, and I know you probably answered. We just don't have it in the. I know you did in the screenshot here, but that's a good example. Now, you ready for the next one? Womp
Yeah.
womp.
Yeah, right. And you're going to get a guy that says you're terrible, and I'm rude and arrogant and unprofessional, and
He got so excited he hit the return button. He had to start a new sentence there.
It's a cut in the face. Yeah, hey, bring him back down to earth. And so in this case, what I did is I just let him know I'm disappointed. You're trying to ruin my business like that. And if you have any questions about this review, just contact me. I'll show you the level of quality I work to. So yeah, it's there and it shows up every single time, but people kind of work through it.
Here's this piece as well, and not having any friends and hasn't really done any reviews.
One thing I always say whenever this kind of thing happens, always apologize for them having a bad experience. Always apologize for them having a bad experience, because you always are genuinely sorry that they've given you a bad review. There's no lie in that. They've given you a great review. So tap into that. Honestly apologize for the fact that they feel they've had a bad experience. That's not saying that you did a bad job. That's saying you are honestly sorry that they had a bad experience.
It's super important to separate those 2 points, because sometimes I would early in my career is just not feel compelled to want to apologize because I felt like it made me admit that I was doing something wrong, and that wasn't the case. I was just trying to tell him I'm sorry that he felt that way.
Exactly that. Something went wrong. Maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe you were. Maybe the expectations hadn't been set quite right. Maybe they're just an asshole. But something went wrong. And if you immediately leap into defense and dig in, you're not going to see what it was. So you're not going to make less of it happen.
Agreed. And then here's an important distinction of the hidden reviews too.
Yeah, I've been in Yelp. I advertise lightly with them. It's not much. It's like 20% of my budget, but I believe that the reputation review is an important part of the process, so I'm part of it. But Yelp actually suppresses a couple reviews, and in all fairness, they suppressed one where I got a 1-star review and I earned it. I missed getting the report to them, and then I was out for a week with backpacking, and I came back and they were seriously disappointed, and I gave them their money back. I gave them the report, and they just let the review there. That's Yelp's decision, I guess, to suppress that or not. That's the only one I have, and maybe they felt good about that, and then they suppressed a 4-star review. So I would like to say is that overall, my experience has been is that the way that the reviews get suppressed is it's pretty balanced. They'll take out some really shining star reviews. You just kind of like, well, his brother wrote that, and they'll take out some really bad reviews, going maybe his competition wrote that, and it just seems pretty balanced overall. But I don't have any control of that.
Yep, they do take a look at that too, but sometimes you may not agree with what their reasoning is. And then finally, channel your business presence.
Yeah, this is going right back to what we said at the start. The reason you've got to know who you are, what you want to offer, and who you want to serve is so that everything can be channeled to make that happen. If you're not mindful about it, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while to figure that, because like is when you're young and you want to be everything for everyone. Yeah. And is that doesn't work. Is it just leaves you scattered and distracted and not focused. And it kind of puts you sometimes in areas where you're not comfortable, or it's just not your skill.
I think that we'll be coming back to later on in the series when we talk about social media more, is social listening. And this is so important, not just for mentions of you and your particular service, but also listen to what people are saying about other home inspections, about what they expected and what they got, because this is research for you. This is free ideas on how you can offer new services or how you can improve your service to be something above and beyond what people expect.
It is. That's using hashtags. You can search those. I'm having a great time actually doing that with Instagram. Is such a hoot for building inspectors. We're connecting with a ton of people for Inspect.com over there, just because they're posting what not to do's and what to do photos, and you get a great idea of their personality. Actually, I'm really enjoying that as a weather vane, so to speak.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to close up here. Next week, we're going to be talking about, and don't let your eyes cross, it's going to be good, I promise you, conversion rate, maximizing your ROI, your return on investment.
Yeah. And one of the reasons, again, that we want this early in the series is because what's the point of driving 100 visitors now if you can convert 2 out of every 100? If you work on your conversion rate as early as you can, you're going to convert 3 on 100. So that 100 customers you buy is 50% more valuable to you.
I talked about that last week, is especially at those lower conversion rate numbers, is just making small differences has huge impact on the percentage level of your business.
A thing that often people would come to a search engine optimization expert for was often that, they'd been around for a while and they'd got a level of traffic, and they would come to me and say, we want more traffic. We really want to get about 50% more people. And I say, is that really what you want, or do you want 50% more business?
Yeah.
So, because it's usually a lot easier to go from a 2% conversion rate to a 3% than to go from 30,000 visits to 45,000 visits.
Right.
I hope people hear that. It's more efficient and effective to just work on your conversion rate than it's trying to grow your volume.
Yep.
Don't be a numbers queen, folks. You got to figure out what your numbers are going towards.
Because once you've got that conversion rate right, then you can drive more customers, and you're getting more money for every single one there then as well. It doesn't rule it out, but it's the right order to do it.
It's perfect.
More the right customers too, as you were saying before as well, because that's really how you want to make your money, and you're going to do so well if you're working with the people that resonate with you well. So folks, we had a lot packed in here. Jeff, you want to talk real quickly about Inspect.com, and then we're going to head out of here.
I can do that. We're a small marketplace growing, but what we do is we offer an opportunity for people that need good inspectors to find them. Is we provide listings for qualified inspectors for free. You just get listed, and it's a nice index where people across the United States can just search for a termite roof home inspector and locally in a geo fashion and find someone that's been vetted and qualified. So we're very excited. We had some nice business meetings too last week about how we can better serve inspectors and clients, and looking forward to making this a really valuable service for buyers and sellers. Anybody needs a home inspector, termite or roof inspector, get a quality job.
Get excited. We have some fun things coming down the pipe for you.
Yes, we do.
Great. So we'll be back this same time next week. And thank you, Ammon. Thank you, Jeff. That was a ton of great information. You can watch this on the replay. You can go to Inspect.com and get signed up, and then also search for an inspector. Hello. Whole point while we're here. So we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.